Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this ordinary meeting for April 2023. I'd like to start by paying my respects to the traditional owners of the land which we meet tonight, and to their elders past and present, and to elders of any other communities who may be with us here today. Thank you. To receipt of apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. Noting that Councillor Warren is up on screen this evening, and Councillor Stewart remains on leave of absence.
Councillor Warren, just a bit of housekeeping before we get too far into it. Can you hear and see all of us this evening?
Yes, I can, fortunately.
Thank you. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Councillors, we have a recommendation that Council adopt the minutes of the Council meeting held on Wednesday, 8th March 2023. Move that, please. And Councillor Warren, seconded by Councillor Hagan. Any discussion on those minutes at all? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 4, request for leave of absence. Are there any?
Through you, Mayor, thank you. No, I have no requests for leave of absence at this stage.
Item 5, declarations of pecuniary and conflict of interest. In accordance with section 132 of the Local Government Act 2020, councillors who have a conflict of interest in respect of a matter being considered at this meeting must A, disclose the conflict of interest in the manner required by Council's Governance Rules 2020, and B, exclude themselves from the decision-making process in relation to this matter, including any discussion, vote on the matter at any council meeting or delegated committee, or any actions in relation to this matter. Disclosures must be occurred immediately before the matter is considered. Councillors, any conflict of interest?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 6, questions from the public, which we have some this evening.
We do, Mayor. Yes, we have 3 questions, and I will read them as follows. First question is from Glenda Watts from Charlton, and the question is in 2 parts. The first of which is, what is Council's position on the VNI West option 5 proposal? And the second part of that question is, will Council communicate to the appropriate bodies its support for their ratepayers? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So to answer to that, Council has been advocating for the strongest possible terms to ensure that the Australian energy market operator conducts a transparent and open consultative process with all affected stakeholders, including residents and farmers. We have spoken to both federal and state members of Parliament, as well as senior staff at AMO in recent weeks about the concerns on the consultation process to date. We recognise that option 5 route is currently presented as being somewhere within 50-kilometre radius through parts of Buloke Shire. We also acknowledge that the route is changing by the day based on feedbacks from the stakeholders. We await more detailed plan in the coming month, which will narrow the route down. Council will then form a position and make representation at that time. And the answer to question 2 is yes, we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And the next question comes from Mr. Trevor McGurk, and it also comes in 2 parts. It goes as follows. I ask on behalf of my family and community for your support to save our district from being carved up by the VNI West project, and that you represent your ratepayers by strenuously opposing this project. Please emphasise that it has been changed from the most direct route linking our 2 largest provincial cities to a far longer route, harvesting less than half of the renewable energy the initial corridor offered. And the second part, Mayor, is secondly, ask why your residents in Buloke Shire are less valued and more expendable than those in the shires of the first chosen corridor. Waiting response.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. The VNI West project has caused significant anxiety in our community, particularly given the lack of any detail provided by the Australian energy market operator to this point. The documentation provided on the preferred route shows a 50-kilometre wide map running from Kerrang through parts of our shire. Council has been in constant contact with AMO, including a briefing from their staff last week, as well as local members of Parliament highlighting our concerns about the consultation and limited detail. We are advised by AMO to expect more detail in the next month, at which time the Council will take a position which will reflect the concerns and views of our residents. And the second part, from the Council's perspective, the residents of Buloke are in no way less valued than anybody else. Council will ensure that the view of our residents are represented at all times.
Thank you, Mayor. And the third question is from Elders Uncle Gary Murray, Elder Uncle Bob Nichols, and Elder Uncle Danny Kelly. And it goes as follows. Traditional owners represented by Elders Uncle Gary Murray, Uncle Bobby Mills, Uncle Bobby Nichols, and Uncle Danny Kelly note the recent discussions held on Mount Richard on Monday, 27 March 2023, with the Mayor, Council, State Government representatives, traditional owners, and other interested parties in attendance. Elder Uncle Bobby Nichols gave a welcome. Following that meeting on Mount Richard, the Mayor, Councillor Alan Getley, spoke on ABC Radio Autumn with Rebecca Lowe in relation to the meeting and to the sacred emus on Mount Richard. He stated that Shire ratepayers could not pay for the upkeep and ongoing maintenance of the emus or their enclosure. He also gave figures that he said would be needed for the maintenance of the emu enclosure and their ongoing care. Traditional owners say that the figures he quoted were enormous and were not reflected in the emu management plan prepared for the Shire by Southern Fauna Ecology, SFE, Emily Richardson in July 2021. Traditional owners submitted the detailed response to that draft emu management plan, the SFE plan. Traditional owners are of the strong view that even the costings given in the SFE plan were excessive and not in line with reality. But traditional owners believe that the Mayor's costings given on the ABC were over and above the costings quoted in the SFE plan. The sacred emus on the mount have been cared for over 32 years by Mr. Bernie Orr and Mrs. Kate Orr, and for over some 6 years, Charlton Tourism Incorporated has been assisting with the cost of food and maintenance of the fencing at the emu enclosure. Traditional owners therefore believe there has to date been little or no cost to the Shire or its ratepayers to maintain the reserve that would feed house the sacred emus there. The SFE plan only considered 2 of a possible 4 more options, as acknowledged by Emily Richardson at pages 5, 13 and 19 of the plan. So that plan has to be regarded as incomplete and any costings reassessed. As part of the traditional owners' response to the Shire and to the SFE plan dated 21 October 2021, Mr. Kevin O'Day, Chartered Accountant, and the Honourable Chairman of the Charlton Tourism Incorporated submitted questions in regards to the costing contained in the plan. The former CEO of the Shire, Mr. Anthony Judd, told Mr. O'Day that the Shire would get back to him and traditional owners with details of how the costings had been calculated. This, however, has never occurred. Given that neither traditional owners nor Mr. O'Day have had any contact from the Shire as to the veracity of the costings in the plan, traditional owners now ask the Shire and the Mayor, given his recent ABC email, for an urgent and considered response from the Shire to traditional owners and to Charlton Tourism Incorporated to validate the SFE plan costings for the maintenance of the emus. Traditional owners strongly believe that sacred emus should be celebrated for their spiritual and cultural significance to First Nations peoples. The sacred emus are protected wildlife under relevant legislation. The emus should be housed and cared for in a fauna park type environment similar to Kyabram Fauna Park with its vast tourism potential, and they must be properly maintained and cared for. Question for the Shire to provide proper costings for these sacred emus. As such, traditional owners now request on an urgent basis from the Shire a detailed formal response and advise proper costings for the sacred emus and their enclosure on Mount Richard. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. And the answer to that one, the Council will take this question on notice, but as per the resultant conversation during a follow-up phone call placed by your representative, Cheryl O'Connor, to the Council's Director of Community Development today, active participation in the Mount Richard Group EMU working group would address the veracity of the costings in the plan and understand what is required and how best to access funds to provide for the emu's population together. My understanding from our meeting on country was that we're all pulling in the same direction. Thank you. Item 7, procedural items, report of council assemblies, and council have a recommendation that council note and report the council assembly meetings held on the 1st and 15th of March 2023. I'll move it for those points. Councillor Simpson.
Happy to second, Councillor.
Councillor Mill. Any discussion on those, Councillor Simpson? Councillor?
No.
And all those in favour? Against, that's carried. Thank you.
And Councillor Warren.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Warren, I didn't see you up there. I apologise.
No, I just voted in favour of that particular motion.
Sorry. All right, I must look up and make sure that I don't miss you up there, Councillor.
Oh, look, I'll put it this way. If I have something to say, you'll know about it.
Thank you. Correspondence initiated by council, there is none. Letters of congratulation and recognition of achievement and awards. Councillors, we have a recommendation that council acknowledge and congratulates the persons or groups mentioned in this report for their achievements, and they are from Robin Letts, OAM, from the Wimmera Valley Cricket Association, being awarded life membership for his lifelong dedication to the advancement of cricket in the district, by his family-owned and operated Buloke Times and former entities, as well as on a personal enjoyment level as a cricket tragedy at every opportunity that arose. And Darryl Broughton from the Wimmera Valley Cricket Association, being awarded life member for his continued involvement in the sport of cricket as an umpire, commencing from the formation of the association and prior to that as a player. Can I have a mover for those, please? Councillor Mill.
Happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Pollard, thank you. Any discussion on that, Councillor Mill?
No, well, only through you, Mr. Mayor, just to say that two well-deserved awards by the Wimmera Valley Cricket Association to those two gentlemen, and they were presented at the after show of the grand final for that association, and particularly the one for Robin Letts, long overdue. I think he's been a stalwart of cricket for a long time. Not taking anything away from Darryl, who's put in just as much in the time that he's been involved. So, pardon me.
Thank you, Councillor Mill. Councillor Pollard, anything to add? Thank you. Council, we've had a recommendation moved, and all those in favour, please. Against, carried. Thank you. 7.4 building permits monthly update from the office of the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The Director of Corporate will present these two reports this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and CEO, and through you, councillors, this is your standard number report providing information on the building permits approved for the month of March 2019.
Thank you. Council, we've got a recommendation that the council note the information contained in the report on building permits approved by staff from 1 March 2023 to the 31st of March 2023. Move and second for those, please. Councillor Hogan, seconder. Councillor Pollard, any discussion? Councillors, all those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. 7.5 planning applications received monthly update from the office of the CEO again.
Once again, present this report, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, councillors, this report provides information on planning applications under consideration by staff and the status of each of these applications.
Thank you. Councillors, we've got a recommendation that council note the information contained in the report on planning applications under consideration by staff and the status of each of these applications. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Pollard and a seconder. Councillor Mill, any discussion? Councillor Pollard? We just noting the information. Councillor Mill.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just as I mentioned at the briefing, that quite a number of applications here for building potential, which goes a long way to address in the future the building or housing shortage that we've got. And a question with regard to the last item listed, PPA 928/21, Campbell Street, Birchip, which is the application for the service station that was has been redirected. Does the same procedure apply for submissions as per the first round? Mr. Mayor, Mr. CEO, please.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Mills, the question through the Mayor. The short answer is yes, it does. So it's effectively going back through the same process as was initially, including advertising opportunity for anybody to make a submission on that planning application.
Thank you. That will answer the question of three particular people who thought they would not be able to submit.
Same process.
Thank you.
Any other council, any comments? Moved by Councillor Pollard and seconded by Councillor Milne that we adopt the report. All those in favour? Again, carried. Thank you. 7.6, status of action of past council meetings resolutions. Is that?
Thank you, Mayor. This one would be, yeah, but again, proceed with the report, just highlighting the actions undertaken based on the council's resolution in recent council meetings. Thank you, Mayor.
Council, we've got a recommendation that council to note the status of action report for council resolutions documented on this list. Can I get a mover for that, please, and seconder?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Councillor Milne, and the seconder, please. Councillor Simpson. Discussion, comments?
No, only through you, Mr. Mayor, that the list is quite extensive, and possibly some of those items we could start to remove if everybody's in agreement with that, so that the list is easy to navigate. Anything that's complete that people are satisfied with. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson.
Basically, to say that it's good to see that so many items on this list have reached the status of complete. So, as Councillor Milne said, we can probably start to remove some of those from this extensive list.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Any other council comments? Council, put that to the vote. All those in favour? Again, carried. Thank you. General business, 8.1 policy reports, 8.11 community support policy. Mr. Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, councillors. This report is presented tonight to consider the adoption of the community support policy. The policy provides an overarching framework to determine the nature and level of support provided to community groups, organisations and committees. The provision of community support to achieve the desired outcomes is critically important. Many Buloke communities have a range of events, places and spaces that require assistance from council to be successful. The policy sets out the type of groups that council is able to support, including corporate associations and community asset committees, and also a range of criteria required to be able to assist with community support. Councillors, tonight we review the community support policy.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. Councillors, we've got a recommendation that the council adopts the community support policy. Can I get a mover and second of that, please? So Councillor Hogan and a seconder. Councillor Pollard, discussion. Councillor Hogan.
Very comprehensive policy. I like the fee waiver for hire of council-owned facilities. I think that's something that's very important to support our local community. And yeah, the direct annual funding agreements that we've set up with all of our very important recreation service communities. I think there's plenty of scope for our community groups to be well engaged with the Shire through this support policy. So it's highly recommended.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard.
Well, nothing really just allows us to support our community groups with all sorts of different support, which again gives us a guideline so that we can understand what we're doing when approaching.
Councillor Pollard, any other council? Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. Is there any change from the last list that was approved, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Fitzgibbon.
For the policy,
For the policy, yes.
the policy, no, so there's minimal change to that policy. Really clearing up changes to the current local government act,
yeah,
and a couple of terms that we used in the previous plan that are no longer relevant. So changing to asset committees.
Thank you. The other question that I have is noted that we support recreation reserve committees, is there any plan to update that policy? Is that the same policy that was adopted some years ago in Birchip at the Leisure Centre, or have we rectified that? I asked the question because the time that policy was implemented for recreation reserves and other areas, we didn't have a lot of water in the environment. And a lot of those places now miss out on annual funding, but may be covered off in other funding. Are we comfortable that we're covering off on everything?
Happy to take that question on notice, Councillor, and do some work and come back to you unless you've got any.
Yeah, no, so through you, Mr. Mayor, it is still the same policy. In fact, we've had recent discussions with funding body around opportunities that might present themselves over the coming 12 months to get some financial assistance and updating that, including looking at the funding model that was adopted quite a long time ago.
Thank you very much.
The other councillors, any comment? All those in favour?
Yep.
Again, that's carried. Thank you. 8.2.1 Advocacy Strategy 2023. Mr. Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mayor, and again through you, councillors. This report is presented tonight to consider the adoption of an updated advocacy strategy to include advocacy efforts related to the flood event of October 2022. As a result of that event, there has been significant damage to council's road network and impacts on the community. The advocacy strategy has been updated to include that betterment works be included in the disaster recovery funding arrangements. Realistic funding models for overall recovery are considered, and $600,000 for a second demountable levy for Donald Township. These asks align strategically to the road management plan, asset management plan, financial plan, municipal emergency management plan, North Central Regional Floodplain and Management Strategy, and the Mallee Floodplain Management Strategy. Councillors, tonight will bring you the Advocacy Strategy 2023 for adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. Councillors, we've got a recommendation again to adopt the Advocacy Strategy 2023, and we'll review the Advocacy Strategy within the 2023-2024 financial year. Could I get a movement for that, please? Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Pollard. Sorry, Councillor Simpson. It's all starting the same letter, just the wrong spelling. Sorry about that, Councillor Simpson. Councillor Simpson, Councillor Pollard. Discussion.
Only to say that it's timely to update this policy to include our flood recovery. A significant ongoing cost to Buloke Shire will be the recovery from the 2022 floods. Just to endorse that this is a good addition to our advocacy strategy.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pollard.
I just think it's great that it's come back as the need arises when things change.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillors, any other comments, questions? Councillor Milne.
Just a comment. Page 39 of the actual report talks about advocating for money for small towns, yet shows a picture of Witcherproof, who's already had their street upgrade started, whether it's completed. Just thought it would have been more appropriate to have a picture of those towns referred to in that document. And on the rural living, page 48, NBN upgrades. Just wonder whether it wouldn't hurt, and we've talked about this before, that we include the Birchip cropping group as somebody who is in real need of high serviceability with the internet. That might be something that could be added to that document. And while it might be contentious in tonight, the change in places facility, I think, is something that's only new, and there may have been a few things on the list that could have gone in before that, in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Melbourne. Any other councillors' comments? No. Okay, council, will be a recommendation that we adopt the Advocacy Strategy 2023 and we'll review the strategy within the 2023-2024 financial year. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. 8.22, response to Commonwealth Aged Care Reform, final report. Manager of Community Service, but I believe Mr. Fitzgibbon, you will present this report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and once again through you. Councillors, this is a significant report being presented tonight seeking Council's consideration of the feedback received following the in-principle decision regarding its future as a provider of services under the Commonwealth Home Support Program, the Victoria Home and Community Care Program for young people, and regional assessment services. The in-principle decision taken by Council in February 2023 triggered a transparent engagement and consultation process with clients, staff and community. The report provides an overview of the actions taken following the in-principle decision and the feedback received from these processes. Buloke Shire Council is a long-term provider of aged and disability services for our community to a high standard by a caring and dedicated workforce. Some of these outstanding staff members are in the gallery tonight. Significant Commonwealth reforms have been implemented in the past decade, and future changes to the funding and operating environment will result in Council being ill equipped and suited to continuing as a provider. The current Commonwealth Home Support Program transitions to the new supported home program after 30 June 2024. Based on this imminent transition and its understanding of community interest and needs, Council made that in-principle decision in February that it would consult with those affected based on a transition out of the service delivery function in 2023. Appointment of a successor provider or providers of these services is the responsibility of the Commonwealth and Victorian governments. However, a period of transition will allow Council to support existing clients through a staged process of change and ensure our most vulnerable community members are not left behind by the Commonwealth reforms. Services to the Buloke community will continue to be funded to the same levels and will be delivered under the same national quality framework which are applied to Council as a provider. Council has, throughout the process of consultation, remained committed to transparency and engagement with clients, staff and the community, and has assured all stakeholders that it will respect the service agreements and industrial obligations. Feedback received has been incorporated into planning for implementation of the Council decision. Throughout the last 6 weeks, we've consistently heard from clients that their most common concern was the potential discontinuation of individual services and the value of the Meals on Wheels program. The financial barriers for Council's ability to undertake service provision under the new program was widely understood by a majority of clients and family members upon discussion. Many have not considered the rate payer subsidy that had previously been applied in conjunction with funding and client fees. Many raised concerns for client fee levels under the new program and a desire for Council to play a large role in advocacy by assisting future and existing clients to access new providers and then ensure that there is accountability for those providers to maintain high standards. In undertaking this decision, Council understands it has responsibilities to clients and families, long-serving staff and the broader community to manage the transition effectively and to anticipate and mitigate risk. Staff are being kept informed through group meetings and individual follow-up sessions upon request. A standing offer of support through Council's Employee Assistance Program has been made to all affected staff. Staff consultation reflected a strong desire for a client-focused approach to limit the impact of the hardship of change and support community and clients to adapt to the new program into the future. As is the nature of caregiving, staff within the Buloke Shire Council Service Provision team were responsive to the information provided and proactively sought clarification on areas that were unclear in order to better explain and support their clients through this time. The impact of localised staff in times of emergency and severe strain were also topics for discussion. COVID-19, for example, was a particularly trying period for staff in this field, However, the social connection and appreciation of the services provided has had a long-lasting effect upon staff that reaffirms their selfless priorities. Council will not be moving all resources from this vulnerable cohort should the decision be made, and understands the need to commit resources to support an effective transition process that has been estimated over the next 12 to 18 months to support current clients and new people looking to access services. An ongoing commitment would also be made to ensure positive aging and accessibility is a key priority for council projects and programs. It has been a long, complex and delicate road to now, and councillors tonight will bring you the response to Commonwealth Aged Care Reform's final report for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 56 of tonight's agenda. I hope that you've all read that, and I have someone move that and second that recommendation. Councillor Pollard, is there a second, please? Councillor Hogan. Discussion, Councillor Pollard.
This is a very difficult decision for me to make because of the effects of some fantastic staff that we've had in there, some fantastic clients. But it does concern me if we try and continue with the service, and it could end up if we've got to set up a business case or a business model, that if it goes to the wolves, it's going to actually be a harder and worse cut off. It's very difficult for the older person, the most vulnerable in our community as well. And I know our staff do a fantastic job looking after them. It is, I'll be honest, with regret that we've got to make this decision, but the federal government's been pushing us into making a decision for the last 8 or 9 years. I'd like to thank our staff for the fantastic work that they've done, and I pray that we can support the staff and the clients during this transition.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillor Hogan.
I'd like to echo Councillor Pollard's comments, that this is a difficult process, but I think the benefit we have is that we can actually manage the process to some degree, and discussions at the council table in recent weeks have talked about using our staff to ensure that things like the use of computers and being able to access those parts of the transition that will be difficult for a number of our clients are managed by people that they know and people that care about them. And I think we must ensure that we make provision within our spending going forward for at least this transition time, that those people are available to support our clients in whatever way they can.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan. Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As both other speakers have said, a very difficult decision by council, and I think we dragged it out as long as we could, and we still have probably a little bit of time to go where to have made our decision, but to be able to ensure, and we questioned long and hard this, and we were given good answers by our staff that as much as they were given that the government has been a little bit elusive in providing information about who might be the replacement service for this area or any area, until we made up our mind to get out. Well, I'm still nervous as to the fact that they will live by their own rules, and I hope that they do, because we will be losing some good staff, and we will be losing the ability to affect in a hands-on manner how our older and vulnerable people are treated within the community. When you look at the list of services there that go with this decision, or will no longer be available with our decision, we hope that they're taken up wholly and solely by a new provider, and that somewhere along the line, that new provider is not focused on money and money outcomes and budgets, in that distance doesn't frighten them off from travelling from one end of the Shire to the other to provide service, like some of our allied health services do at this stage. So it is a nervous time for us. It is it's something that I know we've all deliberated strong and long over. So from my point of view, I thank the staff that have been here with us and before in this service, because while we might have had some ups and downs in our times, I mean, that service has gone on and on and on and on, and has been well received by our people and very, very well valued. So we thank the staff and through the ones that are represented here tonight, thank you for turning up and hearing what we've got to say. We also thank the staff of council who have put all of this together and worked their way through it, because it's been an absolute nightmare. Miss Allen's come into it right at the end. Well, not so much at the end, but she's certainly had to pick it up in a hurry because she only came back to council and ended up with this role. So to have that level of knowledge handed on to us as council has been fantastic. But we are still nervous because we know that these things start out by being funded by governments. And I think a lot of our problem has been over the years that we have had to substitute this service, which was never in question at budget time, but it has been one that came with not enough money to fund it. So we hope that they continue to look at that and provide a bigger and better service as they seem to think will be able to happen. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, after that long-winded but worthwhile.
I won't go through what the other councillors have said, because I wholeheartedly agree. A difficult decision, an excellent service provided by fantastic staff. But what I would like to add is that I commend our council staff for their community consultation. There are many councils around this state who have not engaged in the level of community consultation and staff consultation that our council has. And I would like to add that.
Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to, I suppose, lead off with a statement. And that is that leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about doing the best for those in your charge. Sadly, I've had some time to reflect and from personal experience of late, with some instances that have occurred in and around Donald. The amount of questioning I have put to staff in terms of who will these people be to provide the service? How will people access the service? I haven't had, to my mind, a satisfactory answer to those questions. That in itself leads me to believe that in my decision, that I are looking at the most vulnerable people in our community, people that look to us for leadership and for support. Sadly, whilst I know this is probably, if you like, the Last Supper, I cannot support this motion because I believe we're leaving people behind. We're leaving people to the mercy of the market. And if anyone knows the mercy of the market, I can assure you that in the future, that will be not a good outcome for our most vulnerable people in the community. So I do thank the staff for the amount of effort and work that's gone into this over many years. But like anything, people need to be true to their values. And I don't believe in this instant that we are looking to our ratepayers to look after our most vulnerable ratepayers and our staff that have been very loyal for many years in the best interests of them and in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. I'd just like to, before we put this to the vote, just to say that, yes, it's a nervous time. I echo what's been said around the table. Well done to the staff. Well done to our staff over here that have put this together. Nervous, yes. I take some comfort from a mayor's meeting in Horsham some time back where Horsham got out of their program, and a presentation that was made by the Horsham mayor to that meeting on this, and I do take some comfort that their exit from the thing has gone reasonably well. A number of their staff, a good number of their staff have been picked up by the service providers, so that does give me some confidence in that. Certainly a difficult decision, but one that really our hands were tied and we had to make. I'll put that to the vote.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one more comment or one more question. Through this process, and I know that staff are still employed and will have the opportunity maybe to go to a new provider. Have we any idea how many staff? I mean, is there an opportunity for us to have staff stay within our organisation in other roles? Has that been looked at?
Yeah, so after the council make this decision, we'll then work through the options with our staff, which would potentially include redeployment, as well as redundancy and retirement. So one of the options work through with us.
Thank you.
Councillor Pollard, do you want to reply?
Thank you.
Council, the recommendation is on page 56 of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Pollard, second by Councillor Hagan. All those in favour? Against? You get carried.
Mayor, can I ask for a division, please?
Certainly. All those in favour? Councillor Pollard, Councillor Hagan, Councillor Milne, Councillor Simpson, and Councillor Getley. And against was Councillor Warren. Thank you.
Yep.
.23, delegation of fire service and property levy payment. Director of Corporate and Organisation Performance.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, councillors, introducing this report tonight to recommend the statutory payment for the fire services property levy to the State Revenue Office. While this payment is a statutory payment, the quantum of it lies outside the delegation from council to the CEO. Hence, tonight we offer a recommendation proposing council provide the CEO delegation to process this payment as appropriate. Thank you, Mayor.
Council's got a recommendation that council delegate the Chief Executive Officer the authority to approve payment of the fire service property levy to the State Revenue Office up to the value of $725,000, excluding GST, for quarter 3 of the 2022-2023 financial year. Move it, please, Councillor Hagan, and seconder, Councillor Simpson. Discussion.
Administrative presentation.
Councillor Milne.
Yes. Yep.
Just to say that although it's a lot of money, it is dictated on the rates that it is a fire levy, and we have collected it, and we do need to pass it on.
Councillor Milne.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, will this be an ongoing issue that we have to address every quarter, or will this be fixed up going forward?
Through the Mayor, I'll answer that. Thank you, Councillor Milne. So this will only be an issue for it to come to council for this particular quarter due to the large scale payment of full payment rates that came through in February. So a large component of that fee was collected then. We will, however, look to bring the Section 5 delegation from council to the CEO back to council in the next few months for your revision, so that we don't come up against this issue in future years.
No worries. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Any other comments? No. The council with a recommendation that council delegate the Chief Executive Officer the authority to approve payment of the fire service property levy to the State Revenue Office up to the value of $725,000, excluding GST, for quarter 3 of the 2022-2023 financial year. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. 8.2.4 to 2023 changing places funding round. Capital Projects Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Council has the opportunity to pursue a grant opportunity for Changing Places facility through the State Government's Changing Places Fund. Presently, councils will be aware there are no changing places within the Buloke Shire. Donald Memorial Park has been identified as an appropriate location for a Changing Places facility to complement the upcoming place-based installation, which is designed to cater for all abilities. Staff have undertaken engagement in relation to the proposed project with the place-based advisory group, the Shire's Disability Support Network, and the Donald Community Forum. The Changing Places Fund will provide up to $180,000 per facility, and that funding round does close on the 14th of April. To secure that funding arrangement, a financial contribution to the fund would be required, and the officers are recommending tonight that the council approve a financial contribution of $200,000 from the grant opportunity reserve that it established in this year's budget for the proposed multi-year project.
Thank you. Council put a recommendation that council approve a financial co-contribution of $200,000 from the Grant Opportunity Reserve financial year 2023 for the purpose of funding application towards Changing Places funding round 2023. 2, delegate the authority of the Chief Executive Officer to apply the Changing Places funding round, to apply for the Changing Places funding round 2023, and 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the funding agreement on behalf of council should the application be successful. Do I have a mover for that, please?
I'm happy to make that.
Councillor Hogan and a seconder. Councillor Pollard, discussion, Councillor Hogan.
I think it's a very good opportunity that has just come around very quickly, and if we can manage to secure that funding to create a facility which is inclusive and reflective of the diversity of our wider community and their needs, I think it's a very good opportunity. And my only concern would be that should there be a security aspect in relation to quite an expensive facility that you know, whatever security arrangements put in place for the security are basically put in place. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to provide a service that not a lot of places, especially small towns like Donald, have.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan. Councillor Pollard.
I think it's a great opportunity for us to use our Grant Opportunity Reserve Fund for something that there isn't in Buloke Shire at this stage. And I think actually it should be an opportunity that we should be looking at.
Councillor Melbourne. Councillor Finley.
I understand that we will create a Changing Places facility, but this money will also, the council co-contribution will also improve the toilet facilities for the general public as well. So it's not just for one unit, but for a general public in that place-based area and park area.
Councillor Melbourne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things, if I may, please. The total cost of this is estimated to be $467,480, of which council will be allocating $287,480, which leaves $180,000 to be put in by the state government, which I don't think is enough for a project like this. I'm just a bit disappointed in the fact that that's all they're stumping up. The other thing I'd like to ask the question before I make the comment is, this $200,000 will be out of this current budget, opportunity budget, not next year's. It says 2023. I just want to make that.
Through the mayor, yes, certainly. So this is the $200,000 allocation that was made at the adoption of the budget this year. It remains to council, I guess, on review of the forthcoming reserve policy event, how it wants to treat these types of reserves in the future.
Thank you. So my comment is that while we've had a presentation last week from another group who also have an interest in this opportunity fund, and may well have an opportunity in the next one if we have it in the budget. But my point is, I guess, is that, and I'm speaking on behalf of those people because they've expressed a preference as to what they might think is necessary for Donald. That the tradie park option that might miss out on funding through this opportunity funding is probably something that they themselves have higher on the list than this changing places. So while I'm not against the changing places opportunity, I think there's probably, in speaking for the people who have asked me to speak, where we're overlooking an opportunity that's probably been on the books for 7 or 8 years, looking for funding. And while they presented to us last week and there's a bit more work to be done, I just would like to put their case and strongly suggest that that this change in places, while it hasn't been on the books for a long time, it's an opportunity that's only just come along to grab the money and do something with. I still think the state government is shortchanging us in the amount of contribution they're putting in, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not 100% in favour of this.
Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff might be able to assist me here. In terms of the funding, how much is allowed for the allower that will need to be paid to our Indigenous friends in this project? And has that been budgeted and factored in to these figures? And if it has, how much is it?
Mr. Mayor, the advice that we've received is that landowners' consent will be required from Steve after the proposed works. We're not anticipating that a land use activity agreement will be necessary as toilet blocks are listed as an advisory activity.
Did you hear that, Councillor Warren?
I think the gist of it was that you believe that it won't be a factor in this particular thing. Can you state that categorically?
Yes.
Do you have that in writing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware that we've received it in writing. The advice received from staff is that they're not anticipating that a law will be required as the toilet blocks are an advisory activity.
Okay, right. Pretty much watch this space. Thank you.
Councillor Buloke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on Councillor Warren's question, because the toilet block is being relocated or located to a different position within the park, does that question not stand? Or is it still the same that whether it's a new one or a replacement one, a new one on a new site or a replacement on an existing site, it doesn't require a luau?
I am unable to answer that question unless Travis might be aware of that, or the CEO might be aware of that. I can take that on notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Hogan, want to reply?
I think that we are very lucky to get an opportunity for improved public amenities in Donald, and I think that this is a shovel-ready project, and whereas I'm aware of the concerns that the trading park does raise in relation to using the grant opportunity reserve, but I think they're a long way from ready for. There's definitely not a shovel-ready project from what we were presented with the other night. So I would say that this would be a lost opportunity if we didn't follow this through. And yes, so I'm happy to continue to support this.
All Right, council, we have a recommendation that council approve a financial co-contribution of 200,000 from the Grant Opportunity Reserve financial year 2023 for the purpose of funding application towards the Changing Places Funding Round 2023. 2, delegate authority of the Chief Executive Officer to apply for the Changing Places Funding Round 2023. And 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the funding agreement on behalf of the council should the application be successful. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. That's carried 4-2. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one more question on that? And please yourselves whether you give me an answer or not at the moment. But where does the 87,000, the balance of the council contribution, what part of our this year's budget will that come out of, please?
This year's budget.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be a multi-year project, so it will come out of the financial year 2024-2025.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8.3 financial reports, of which there are nil. 8.4 organisational reports, which there are nil. 8.5 reports from councillor. Councillor Hogan, would you like to start off, please?
Okay, quite a busy month. On the 11th of March, we had the Marley Heart Festival in Birchip, and as a member of the Birchip Historical Society, I helped command the display at the Birchip Railway Station, which was a great collection of old school photos and fashion pieces. I'd like to commend Mrs. Maureen Dolman for the work she put into that. And we had quite a lot of interest on the play. Also, on that day, we had the latest addition to our street art collection in Birchip, and a beautiful piece on the side of the courthouse museum of 2 horses drinking from a water trough, which looks great and is very popular with the caravanning crew. And it was a great event all around, and in accommodation to the organising committee. On the 23rd of March, I attended Victorian Drought and Innovation Hub event at La Trobe Uni in Bendigo, and the aim of the event was to explore adaptation to drought at a local government level in rural and regional Victoria. It was a really, really good event. The representatives from most of Victoria's regional shires, the BCG and other research organisations, FRRR, Victorian State Government and water authorities. They were really exceptionally good speakers, and I stayed on for the afternoon session and joined in with the think tank workshop, looking at developing meaningful and actionable outcomes toward adaptation and preparedness, which I hope to work with a group that I hope to stay involved in. I also attended a park meeting at Birchip during the month, and updated plans were put forward to do some work in the local park. And I just wanted to mention the good work of Trevor Rumbold, our officer, who thanked him for the work he's done and the way that he managed that event. On Sunday, the 2nd of April, I attended an annual sold out event of the Buloke Women's Network, which saw 120 women bussed up to Sea Lake from across the Shire. We spent a lovely afternoon at the Visitor Centre and the Sky Mirror Cafe, dinner at the Royal Hotel, and a trip out to watch the sunset over Lake Tyrrell. And I'd just like to commend Julie Slater and Alan White for all the work they have put into organising these events and keeping this group active over many years. And yesterday with Mayor Getley, I attended Nullarbor for a walk around and see a number of things which need addressing in that township. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fire.
There's just one thing I wanted to bring up. I had a phone call with CEO Annika from the CEO of the Central Victorian Greenhouse Alliance, and there's a little bit of concern through the Greenhouse Alliance in reference to the high voltage power lines running through this area. And what she's done, she's given a brief summary of the program that she's trying to put together. And I'm aiming to email that around everyone for everyone's comments. It's basically trying to look at one of the things they're trying to train us up, get us more over what all of us need to advocate for, try and get us a bit of support so as we can actually come back better for our communities. So I'll send it around to everyone afterwards, and if there's any comments, please get back to me.
Thank you, councillor Pollard. Councillor Warren.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Probably the month went very quickly in many respects, but like many in the Donald community, we spent a lot of time at the Esoteric Festival working on with community groups and feeding the multitude of people that descend in the region for Esoteric, which can I say, having been involved with festivals for many years and started some considerable ones, such as the Queenscliff Music Festival, this event is world class. The organisers should be congratulated out of hand for what they've established there, and the Shire should be proud to have such an event within its boundaries. I mean, if you just think of the raw numbers, there are more people in 1 square kilometre for 5 days at Gilgil than there are in the whole of the Buloke Shire for 12 months of the year, and they're serviced very much with everything that a community needs. The other thing that occupied quite a bit of my time has been dealing with ratepayers in regard to the queries in regard to the matter we've just dealt with tonight, which has been the transition from aged care in the Shire. And just to reinforce that that has been a very difficult conversation, especially when you are called to assist ratepayers that have serious falls in the community. And the sad fact that those ratepayers have developed strong ties with their carers and their support staff. As I said at the time, this is the thing that really worries me going forward, where that support will come from those ratepayers. Apart from that, I had quite an interesting break away, and it's always good to see how the other half live. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Warren. Councillor Simpson.
I had a fairly quiet month with my extra council activity being the North Central Len board meeting, and report that that's an organisation in good financial stead to provide ongoing support and initiate and instigate outcomes for all of our young people within the Buloke Shire.
Thank you. Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite a list of things this month, a lot of them to do with Wimmera Valley Tourism Board, and where we might go from here with the resignation of our executive officer in Christie. That's become known now, and we'll work through that with Wimmera Development Association for her replacement. Attended the Charlton Trots as a guest, re-sponsorship that Wimmera Valley Tourism has with Charlton Trots for this 12 months, and quite enjoyed that. I've declared that, Mr. Mayor, I've declared that little day out. It was very good. Couple of meetings of Watch and Progress, which I'm the official delegate, and a couple of questions coming out of those that I'll put into an email and send in. Attended a couple of the cabin discussions with regard to cabins at lakes and caravan parks, creating some excitement in some places and angst at others, I guess. $2,000 in Councillor Warren's absence, I was able to get to that again. And business as usual there, they're never sitting still. Corac, again, to fill in for Councillor Warren to the Rec Reserve annual general meeting and the hall meeting out there. Always a good meeting to get to in the smaller communities. The Mount Witchy Emu meeting was, I thought, was a good meeting with potential to go forward. Some things that come out of that meeting are a first, and we should get from that working group. We should get a good resolution, I hope. And we've had a Sunraysia Highway Improvement Committee meeting, the first for the year, which clashed with Wimmera Valley Tourism. But we've got a number of new members on the Sunraysia Highway Improvement Committee, who are bits and movers and shakers within their respective shires. And I guess we've had some losses on there as well, sending off Councillor Driscoll, Engineer Driscoll. We approved payment for Councillor Driscoll's funeral costs, which is what I had in my mind. But the letters of thanks for Gary Driscoll for his engineering works, and for Daya Govinda, who's the old Vic Roads, Rural Roads Victoria rep, who chose to vacate the chair when Transport Victoria had a reshuffle of that department. And they were people that we valued very highly in the Sunraysia Highway Improvement Committee. And we hope to get some more representation on that. And I guess the meeting we held in Donald, which was a one-off, for the only reason that we normally meet in Birchmore or St Arnaud, some Donald members and Donald 2000 plus community members wanted us to meet down, look at the intersection at Sunraysia Highway and Hamill Street, with a view to maybe looking at something there in the future. And of course, there's a great opportunity now to meet with some new sitting members after the last election that we haven't met before, and to push our roads ideas onto them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Mill. I have sent my report through to the EA, and hopefully that's we've worked that problem out that we've had in the last couple of months. But just a couple of things. Before the briefing, we toured Eat Well in Donald and to see that particular factory in operation. That was an eye-opener to see the robotics and the automation that's available in that factory. It was quite good to see, and good to see a local business employing people going forward. The Southern Mallee Wimmera Transport Group was another well-attended meeting in Horsham that I was at. It's good to see some funding from the Department of Transport for works up Sea Lake area. They had some money available for that, and they still tell us that the Donald Minyip Road's coming, and I happened to notice that when I last went over that way, there were some markings on the road, so perhaps there's some progress on that road about to happen, and you can keep your false teeth in when you go to Horsham. Other than that, it'll be difficult, but the rest is in my report that will be attached to this. Thank you very much. 9, other business, notice of motions, which there are nil. 9.2, questions from councillors. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Mill.
Always a question, Mr. Mayor, or two. And it goes on from the B&I discussions, and after our briefing from those people the other night at the briefing, I believe there was an opportunity for the CEO and somebody else to have a discussion. What I want to just find out was the extension of the submission date that was negotiated by BFF at St Arnaud meeting down there. Is that actually being publicised so that people can actually put in submissions if they want to? And is that only for BFF members?
Through the Mayor, happy to take that question. I personally saw that come up in the Bendigo Advertiser on their website when that extension had been made. I then approached the representatives at AMO, and they indicated that they would accept any submissions under that time frame of the extension, which was an additional 2 weeks.
Jolly good. Thank you very much. The other question is on behalf of Birchip Forum, and it's just a request, and I could have done this real briefing, but a request for the plan for the new centre nature strip as far as water and electricity goes, so that they can work out placement of some artefacts that have got to be put back in, if we can possibly have that. And a couple of comments from the Watch and Progress. A big thank you to council staff who have now moved into the Watch and Township after our walk around Watching and some other discussions with staff. There is some notable work being carried out, and it's been voluntarily noticed by locals. So we thank staff and very much for that. And I have had an update as to what's going on there, but got to say that they are well and truly pleased. The other comment from the Progress Committee is that they're getting sick of waiting for the whole disabled thing to be done. Not that it's a whole committee, but it is something that the community use quite regularly. Looking for that work to be done soon. And the question was also on the shifting of the silo. I think Mr. McLaughlin might have answered some of those questions after the KIP meeting last night, but
We'll follow that through there. We'll follow that up tomorrow.
thank you. Thank you. We, I think yesterday as one day, we directed 7 vehicles to that silo, which is sitting up on the old netball court. And just a bit hard to find if you're old and can't use navigation equipment. But thank you, that's all.
Councillor Warren, did you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just, I suppose, a thought bubbles a question. I've been approached by members of the CELO community, APRO, the closure of the Bendigo Bank agency there. Their question is, what is council going to do about it? Are they going to advocate on our behalf to head office to take up some action to try and persuade the Bendigo Bank to keep that agency open? I'm in your hands. Are we able to formulate some letter pleading their case? We've adopted an advocacy strategy tonight. I think this would fall brilliantly into that strategy.
All right, thank you. And through the Mayor, I'm happy to take that question, Councillor Warren, and it has been discussed amongst councillors, but that we would in fact write to the head office of the Bendigo Bank and expressing our concerns and then asking around what their intentions would be to continue to provide service to the CELO community.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment further to Councillor Warren's point? Is in that Warringah branch of the Bendigo Bank agency has announced its intention to close as well, which is a worrying thing for a lot of people who changed to Bendigo Bank when it was mooted as a good idea because other banks were disappearing. I guess when you look around the district, we've also got Birchip Agency, and I haven't heard of anything there yet, but just where are the Bendigo Bank going?
To add to that, I believe there are 3 agencies being closed in the Loddon Shire.
So it is a concern.
If I might add, the Bendigo Bank branches that are actually branded by the Bendigo Bank, so company sites have done a round of evaluation on their agencies, and obviously closures have been announced, but they are not aligned with the community banks. It is the actual company branches that have, so that's where they are.
Yes.
Anything further, councillors? Urgent business, of which there is none. Any other business? Which there is none. Which brings us to 9.5, matters that may exclude the public. We have a recommendation that.
Thank you, guys.
We have a recommendation that pursuant to section 66(1) and 2A of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to the public to consider the following reports that are considered to contain confidential information on the grounds provided in section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 as indicated. 9.5.1 contract C 116/2022-23, which includes library upgrade tender evaluation. Could I have somebody move that can close the meeting, please? Councillor Simpson, second. Councillor Pollard, all those in favour? It's carried.